Hey guys, I hope you've all been doing well. I hope you enjoyed this last week that you had off of school and spring break and just got to relax around the house, catch up on some Netflix, and possibly get outside yesterday because it was finally not raining. So at least that's what I did. I washed my car. Yeah. Yay for productivity. All right. So this week we are going to be diving into the cardiovascular system. This is my favorite unit, so I'm actually really excited to share this with you. I love talking about the heart. I hope you guys are going to really like learning about it. So I wanted to start actually with, it'll change my slide. I wanted to start with some tips for taking online classes. So I recommend take this as if it's a real class, like we were sitting face to face in the classroom. So during any of these PowerPoints, presentations, take notes, right? Have a pen and paper out, jot down thoughts, pause it, re-listen to something. Practice time management. So this is actually going to be more important now that you're home. You need to carve out time in your day for each of your classes. Get out Post-it notes, make a to-do list, or maybe say, hey Siri, set a timer for 30 minutes, and that's your time for doing anatomy. I've set this course up so that it would either be 30 minutes every day or 60 minutes every other day. And if you whiz through it at a faster pace, hey, go you. But yeah, check your calendar regularly. I would set a to-do list every day. And then eliminate distractions. Find a place in your house that you're going to work that is just for doing work. So, close the door so you're not hearing siblings who are doing their homework possibly, or mom and dad on their conference call. Find a place that you're distracted away from your phone, away from Netflix or any of the games or whatever it is that you're doing, okay? That's my best recommendation, especially if you go to college. I mean, you're more than likely to take online classes that are going to be pretty serious. And so this is actually really good practice to get ready for that. Going forward, if you have any questions from this video, please don't hesitate to reach out, send me an email. I'm thinking I'm going to set up some office hours on Wednesday of this week, so I will send out an email about that shortly. So here are your learning objectives for this presentation. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe the location and the position of the heart within the body, and specifically in which body cavity is it located in. You should be able to relate the structure of the heart itself to its function as a pump, and also to identify the chambers of the heart and the direction of blood flow. And I have some other videos for you later on in the week that are going to talk about the layers that make up the heart wall, and there'll be more on that blood flow in the next couple days. All right, so I wanted to share this video with you, or this picture with you, pardon me, from Body Worlds. If you ever get the chance in Las Vegas or when they come traveling to town to go see this, I highly recommend. Very amazing dissections done by expert anatomists. So here they take some cadavers, and I liked this one specifically because it's showing the heart, if we were to separate everything away, and all of those major vessels that are coming off of that. And I think it's just really profound. I mean, look at the size of that aorta. My God, it's like a garden tube. This is my favorite unit because there is just so much that the heart does. It's more than just a beating sac. I mean, it's the life force of our body. All right, so what are the major functions of your cardiovascular system? First and foremost, transporting blood, right? Blood is physically the vehicle for all of those nutrients that are being transported. And we learned in the last unit that blood is so much more than just those red blood cells, right? When you think of blood, you think of the red portion, right? The erythrocytes. But you guys now know that there's all the plasma that surrounds those erythrocytes. And floating within that plasma is going to be dissolved nutrients, all the proteins of your body. And so all of that is moving via diffusion out of those red blood cells or out of the plasma itself into that plasma membrane of those cells and into the cell body, and vice versa, coming back out. Okay, so gas exchange within those capillary beds. All right, and how is the cardiovascular system moving that transport vehicle, that blood itself? It does it in two ways. The first way is the physical beating of the heart you see here, so the actual contracting of that myocardial muscle. The second way is by maintaining blood pressure. So blood pressure is that physical force against those vessels within your body. So we could either increase blood pressure or decrease blood pressure, and that is how we're going to move that blood. All right, so speaking of the system as a whole, in vertebrates, and humans especially, we have what's called a closed cardiovascular system. So what a closed cardiovascular system is the heart is pumping that blood, and the blood vessels are going to circulate that to all of the parts of the body. So in this diagram you see here, you got the heart. These are all of the blood vessels and capillaries that make up the lungs on the left and right here, going up into what would be your brain towards the top. If I were to go down to the bottom, your viscera, all of your lower limbs, and your digestive region. But if you notice here, it's a closed loop. So that blood, right, it's going to go up and it's going to circulate back around, okay? So it's delivering that oxygen and the nutrients and then bringing away those waste products, and always circles back into the heart, okay? So having a closed system gives us an evolutionary advantage. We're obviously a more complex organism, but not all living creatures have this closed system. So this is actually something that evolutionarily separates you from mollusks, other insects. So as you see, our grasshopper here, he actually has what's called an open cardiovascular system. And so how that works is the heart would pump out the blood, and that blood would physically come into contact with the tissues inside of that organism's body. So it would fill, the blood physically is filling the cavity here inside of this grasshopper, and then we'll slowly move via diffusion back to the heart. And so that's something that separates us from them. As you see here in this closed system, the blood will get pumped out by the heart, but it will move into those capillary beds, and the physical erythrocytes and the plasma itself is not filling that open cavity or those spaces. The nutrients have to diffuse out of the capillary beds into the surrounding tissue. And then because of the high pressure system, because we're maintaining that blood pressure, it is forced back against gravity towards the heart. So something kind of cool. All right, this photo, again, is from Body Worlds. This is showing when we're talking about that blood vessel network, the heart actually has to feed itself first. And why do you guys think that is, right? Why would we want the heart to get blood and oxygen first, right? Well, if it's driving all that network, it has to have its own major vascular system around that. So here on the left, you see the picture of all of those vessels feeding the heart with its own oxygen and taking away, nutrients to be recycled. And on the right, I think this one's also pretty profound. You could see how intricate the vascular system, the cardiovascular system is, of the lungs going into your organs and into the brain and the cranial region itself. All right, so in terms of how large your heart is, the heart is about the size of your fist. It weighs about 1 pound. And if we were to open it up or cut it in half, you can see that inside the heart is actually hollow. And the reason for that is those hollow cavities are what's going to be filled with blood itself. Okay, so hopefully this diagram is familiar. I know it might be from the long past from semester 1 of anatomy, but hopefully it does look a little recognizable. This is showing the body cavity. So where is the heart located within the cavities of your body? If you remember, we have 2 major cavities. So we have the ventral body cavity, which has the thoracic cavity, the abdominal cavity, and the pelvic cavity on the back side. So the dorsal portion of your body is made up of the cranial cavity and your vertebral column. So we're going to zoom in to just the ventral portion. All right, so looking on the anterior side, or the ventral body cavity, the heart is in the most medial cavity. So it is located in what is called the mediastinum or mediastinum. Okay, so that is here, the most medial part, and it's shown here in turquoise and in orange. The mediastinum is divided up into 2. You have the inferior mediastinum, which is where the heart is itself, okay? And it's inside of this double-walled sac called the pericardium. So there'll be another cavity with inside this mediastinum that the heart will be inside. And then the vessels that are emerging from the base of the heart, okay, are going to be in what's in the superior mediastinum. And then this is showing how the heart would be if we had your rib cage there. And you notice that the heart itself is sitting on top of the diaphragm. I want you guys to think of the heart as an upside down A. So if I were to have an A here, they call the very point of that the apex. So the apex of the heart is sitting on the diaphragm, pointing towards the left hip. Remember, we're in anatomical position, so it's opposite of what you're seeing. It's always from the patient's view. So the apex is towards the left hip, and the base, where all those great vessels emerge, is going to be on the top here, pointing towards the right shoulder. Okay, so we talked about inside of that mediastinum, there is another cavity that the heart is inside of, and this is the pericardial cavity. This is this double-walled membrane that surrounds the heart. And if you remember, we talked about there's 3 regions of the body that have this double-walled membrane: the heart, the lungs, and your viscera, so your organs in your stomach. And we could actually peel back this pericardium to actually kind of see the heart inside, and you'd be able to close it if we were doing dissection. So I do have a picture coming up to show that. But this pericardium actually is double-walled, so it is going to have an exterior surface and an interior surface because it will fold in on itself. And I have a video that you'll be watching later this week that's going to go in detail about all the layers that make up the pericardium. Okay. Here is showing if I were to give you guys that heart in the lab, what it would look like with that pericardial, that double-walled membrane covering it. And if we were to snip away a section, how you'd be able to see the actual heart itself inside of that pericardium. Okay. So remember, think of this as like if you were to stick your hand, which would represent the heart, inside of a balloon, and the balloon is the pericardium, the outside here that would be touching the actual cavity of your body, so the outside of my hand here, right? And then it folds in on itself, and there is an inside of that part of that pericardium that is physically touching the heart itself, which you would see in here. So we have a visceral layer and a parietal layer. So more to come on that. Make sure you watch that other video. Now, inside of the heart, you've got 4 hollow chambers or cavities. The first 2, the most superior, are your atriums. Okay, these are your receiving chambers where the blood is going to come in. So the lining of the muscle itself, the myocardium, is going to be thinner here because it's just receiving the blood. So blood flows into these atriums from the veins of the heart. Okay. And the blood will leave the atrium and go down into the ventricle. And the ventricle, as you see here, has thicker part of the muscle. This is the discharging chamber. So this is the actual part that is going to physically pump and push under high pressure that blood out. So when it contracts, the blood is propelled out of the heart. From this right ventricle, it's going to go out towards the lungs. From the left ventricle, it's going to go up the aorta and actually feed the rest of the body with oxygenated blood. And the left and the right side, so the deoxygenated on the right and the oxygenated blood on the left, are separated by what we call this interventricular septum. So it's this thick layer of heart muscle that is going to separate those 2 chambers. All right, so what you're going to be doing next after you view this video, I have made your Google Doc where it's broken down what to do each day. So here you see the introduction, the vocab terms that you're going to be studying. Here was video 1. So after this video, you're going to go through this link. It is actually going to walk through how blood is flowing from the atrium to the ventricles, out to the lungs, back into the atrium and ventricles, out the aorta. So this is going to walk through that whole flow. You'll answer some questions here. You'll do a little more practice at labeling all those. I have a purpose game for you. I'd like you to place a screenshot to show me that you've completed it. This is how I'm going to give you credit to know that you've actually watched this and done the activities. I've given you some flashcards here. And then moving into tomorrow, here is the video I was telling you about where it's actually going to go over the layers of your pericardium itself. So watch that, go through it. There's some reading pages this week. And then going into the assignment that is due by Friday, your job is to create an illustration of the heart by Friday 4/3 and to drop it into the Schoology Dropbox, which will look like this one, the Step 2 Pulmonary and Systemic Circuit Illustration. I want you to get creative, make some kind of an illustration that shows the actual flow of blood coming into the heart, out the lungs, back to the heart, and out to the body. So you can do this on paper, on your computer, as long as it includes all those terms. It will give you 14 points for that by Friday. Okay. So just refer to this document that I have on Schoology that'll tell you what to do each day. Again, please email me if you have any questions. I'm here for you guys. Bye.